The Sunny Peace Prairie consists of 75 acres of land just north of Orfordville, Wisconsin. The prairie is located at 2604 South Coon Island Road. This is an aerial view of the property. My wife and I purchased the land in 2001 to keep it from becoming a gravel pit. The property consists of 10 acres of woods and 65 acres of cropland leased by a local farmer. This is the view from the top of the hill on the property, looking northeast where the gravel pit would have been located. The land management plan for the property contains our vision. The vision is to restore the land over a period of years as a prairie grassland and hardwoods preserve. Most of the work will be done by Tallgrass Restoration of Milton, Wisconsin. The vision includes the use of the property by local school groups and other organizations as an outdoor laboratory and to further public knowledge of environmental issues. On February 13, 2018, we entered into a conservation agreement with the Groundswell Conservancy to assure the land will never be subdivided and maintained forever, as stated in the vision. The restoration plan calls for unwanted trees and shrubs to be removed from the woods over time. Most crop areas will be planted to native grasses and forbs. An area in the northeast corner of the property will contain a parking area and other infrastructure to support the Conservancy. Some restoration work is already underway. A central fence line containing trees and brush is being eliminated. The trees were girdled with a chainsaw and Roundup applied in the cut. This photo shows that fence line in the fall of 2016. The trees did not leaf out in the spring of 2017. The trees are left standing as habitat for birds that nest in cavities of dead trees. All fence lines are choked with invasive brush, mostly invasive Eurasian honeysuckle and small volunteer trees. A brush cutter on my Bobcat makes quick work of this clutter. Before and after photos show the results. Students from Mr. Jacques Sattler's class from the Parkview Junior-Senior High School participated in a field day event at the property to become the Sunny Peace Prairie. This property will be restored as a prairie over the next few years. It is important to document the condition of the land prior to the beginning of the restoration. Mr. Sattler's agriculture class obtained soil samples which will be analyzed by the University of Wisconsin Soil Lab to determine the nutrient conditions present in these fields. The result of these samples will be compared to soil samples taken later once the prairie restoration is complete. The differences will document one important change brought about by the restoration.
As you look down this form, there's a place to get more specific about classifying this wood. And we're not ready to do that yet. But that example, DMUF, is an acronym for Dry Music Upland Forest. My sense is that that's probably what this is. And if there's a lot of red oak, hickory and white oak, that's probably what it is.
So it could possibly be the third largest in the state based on just diameter. I haven't measured the height or the width of the crown or the height quite yet.
And how old's the tree?
244 years old.
Oh my goodness.
Yep. And that is based off of a growth factor, and they have a different number per species, and that depends on how slow or fast growing it is. Shagbark hickory is very slow growing.
Get this much woody growth coming into a woods like this, you can have a lot of excess evapotranspiration. So this woody growth sucks a lot of the moisture out. The recharge area for this area includes those open fields that have been not soaking up water like the original prairie or savanna or woodland sod, and it changes the hydrology of the place. And when you start to restore those native landscapes and the ability of that deep-rooted native plant material and vegetation allows water to start soaking in, and then you start seeing these little spring outcroppings starting to come back.
Okay.
So that is part of restoration, is restoring not only the plant diversity, but the hydrology of the landscape.
So you just measured the height and figured out it was 66 feet.
Yep. And I stood 66 feet away, ironically. That's one chain. And so now for the crown spread. Crown spread is 62 feet by 62 feet. So the way they assign points for champion trees is take the circumference at DBH, which is 4.5 feet above the ground, in inches, plus the height in feet, plus 1/4 of the average crown spread in feet. And that's the formula they use to assign the points. So the height and the circumference of the trunk are the dominating factors, but the crown spread factors in as well. And so I can submit these numbers and see where this tree ranks compared to the other champion shagbark hickories in Wisconsin. I'm going to take a GPS point, so if somebody wants to come back and check this tree out, they'll be able to find it. So we'll do that and see. And even if it's not a champion, it's still a beautiful tree. It's a historic tree, and it's a special tree on this property. So we can still love it even if it's not a champion.
Quentin Yeager and Aaron Haycraft conducted a breeding bird count at the Sunny Peace Prairie. Quentin and Aaron made 3 visits to the property, the first in April, the second in June, and the third in July of 2019.
There goes a red-headed woodpecker. And there goes the other one.
49 species were recorded. This count will establish a base for comparison with future counts once these crop fields become a prairie.
Found a grasshopper sparrow, which is a really good prairie species, indicative of grasslands, one of those types of species that is declining rapidly in southern Wisconsin because of lack of grassland. So that's a great find for this habitat.
Area 1, the first area to be planted to a prairie cover, outlined in green on this photo, consists of 16 acres, 7 of which are in the Conservation Reserve Program, and 9 acres planted to soybeans. The cool season grasses in the Conservation Reserve acres were burned in the spring of 2019. Even though the grasses look black in this photo, they will come back to life, given a little rain. On 3 separate times throughout the summer, tallgrass restoration sprayed the cool season grasses to kill them off and keep them from interfering with the prairie cover to be planted in the fall. Lastly, the soybeans on the crop acres were harvested. By November 1st, the grasses in the foreground of this photo and the soybean field in the background were ready to plant. Many of the forbs contained in the prairie seed mix have to go through a winter dormancy, which is why late fall or early winter is the best time to plant a prairie. November 11th was to be planting day. This is what the 16 acres looked like on November 11th. Finally, the weather cleared, the snow melted, and it was time to plant. $18,000 of prairie seed were applied to these 16 acres. Quality prairies are expensive to plant. You're Chris, right?
I'm Chris, this is
And
Isaac.
you're Isaac, okay.
We're just going over the drill seeder. It's a native drill seeder specifically designed for prairie seed. So we're planting in two different seed sizes. This is the legume bin. If you can see this, these are the fine flowable seeds. If I open my fingers, the seed flows through. And I can see a lot of forbs or flowering plants in there. These round ones are the prairie drop seed, which is one of the grasses, but they're kind of sorted in bins by shape because they flow at different rates. So if we were to mix this in with the grass seed, which is real fluffy, it would all get to the bottom and you'd have a real flowery strip and then no other flowers. So that's why we meter them out independently. So those are our legumes, and then our prairie grass is in here, which is a very fluffy seed. So I can see June grass and side oats, grama in here, a lot of the shorter grasses, some silphiums here. So these are the seeds that, again, if you only allow gravity to flow this seed, it won't come out because it's so chaffy and it hangs up on itself. So this drill is designed with these augers that keep the seed moving, and then there's aluminum picking wheels at the bottom that actually pull the seed down into the tubes. And the tubes are oversized so that they can accommodate these big fluffy seeds. So it's different than like a corn drill or a typical agricultural drill. So the opener comes through and the seed falls in those 2 disc openers. You see that little slit?
Yep.
Look at all the seed packed in there.
Oh yeah.
So that's what you want. You want just a narrow slit with seed in there, and that's what's gonna give you your best germination. Okay, so this seeding rate is about 19 pounds per acre, and a typical mix might be 5 to 10 pounds per acre on a lot of the sites we do, so it really shows that it's a very diverse and it's a very high seed count mix, which should lead to a really nice result.
Germination was slow, Some grasses and forbs first appeared in the old soybean acres. Meanwhile, the CRP acres sprouted weeds. But as the spring progressed, the rows made by the planter could be seen. The contrast between the CRP acres on the left and the soybean acres on the right were stark. The CRP acres had many more weeds, even after being burned and receiving 3 herbicide treatments the previous year. I told Tallgrass I would mow the CRP acres, as the other acres were not yet ready to mow. Some thistle was taller than my Ford 8N tractor. My Ford 8N tractor has a small 5-foot wide mower, but given time, it did the job. Two weeks later, all of Area 1 was ready to be mowed, including the CRP acres I had just mowed. Weeds grow fast. The tallgrass equipment was sized for the job. 'The weapon of choice is a heavily weighted hoe with a razor sharp edge on it. That's it. That's all it takes. One swing, another thistle down. This is a short video showing how unwanted elm trees are being controlled in a wooded area on the property. Years ago, magnificent elm trees graced the streets of many towns in the United States. Dutch elm disease appeared in the United States in 1928, and by 1970 had killed most of these trees. The trees still grow but don't survive to maturity. They grow in the woods at the Sunny Peace Prairie, the large wooded area in this photo. Unfortunately, they shade out the more desirable hardwoods. For this reason, and because they will eventually die from Dutch elm disease, we remove them. In 2019, I marked the elms in this woods with orange tape. Tallgrass Restoration of Milton, Wisconsin treated the trees less than 6 inches in diameter with a basal bark treatment to kill them. Trees larger than 6 inches in diameter require girdling with a chainsaw and then applying Roundup in the cut. This is how the process works. Slowly, over a period of years, the elms will be reduced in number in the woods.
Wind direction according to the airport is straight east at 10. Humidity is 25%, which means this drier site should burn pretty good. We'll start with field 15, the rectangle, right behind the house or the building here. We will start at the far end, the downwind side. Thank you, everyone.
Happy Easter!
I'm real happy in that, at least in the places where I work, just in the last week or so, finally I'm beginning to see some monarchs. Much of the summer the numbers have been real low. It kind of made me worried, and now I'm seeing fairly good numbers, so that looks good. Butterflies, it's often real flitting about, and so people don't notice them. You see the real bright white silvery spot on there? Yeah. This is called the silver spotted skipper. Yes.
So it's brown.
Yeah. You want to let it go? No. All right. Sneak in quick before you let it go. Okay, there's our first one for the day. Okay, we'll find another. They're always a lot slower, you know. Anybody can catch a toad without even any practice. A lot of the frogs, on the other hand, are it's 1-2 jumps and it's gone. You know, that sort of thing. Now, you can tell, but looking, breeding season is done, but males. Not only in frogs, only males make noise. Females don't even have vocal sacs to do this. Sometimes if you gently squeeze, they'll croak and protest. Nope, this one might be a female. So, see, little, yeah, look at kind of a bumpy skin all over. All right, we're going to put it back, okay? Do you want to let it go? Good job. All right. Yeah. One of our larger showier butterflies, when I was a kid doing a butterfly collection, to catch a swallowtail was so exciting.
So what will they lay eggs and then group?
Swallowtails love dill, parsley, and fennel as host plants for their caterpillars. So those are 3 plants I always grow every year in my vegetable garden, kind of on the edge. Not that I use them that much, but with the idea that providing food for the caterpillars. Yeah.
I'm tired of trying.
It has real beautiful iridescent kind of bluish black wings when they're open. Now come on, it's not going to do it.
Yeah, I saw them. I caught them. There.
You see?
Particularly back by the tail.
Yeah, yeah.
False sunflowers love moist soils. We had 12 inches of rain in June of 2024. The prairie exploded with false sunflowers, also known as oxeye. 2 years ago, Coreopsis dominated the prairie. Last year, it was brown-eyed Susans. But this was the year for the false sunflower. Let's put the drone in the air to get a bird's eye view. If we climb higher, we can get a good view of the 10-acre woods at the prairie and the countryside to the east. "40 different flowering prairie plants called forbs were planted at the prairie. Here are a few that were blooming in June, starting with butterfly weed, purple prairie clover, hoary vervain, and purple coneflowers. These all contrast with the yellow of the false sunflowers. This rattlesnake master will be blooming soon. But the false sunflowers definitely ruled the roost. 10 different prairie grasses were included in the planting mix. Scattered throughout the prairie you can find big blue stem. The planting was heavy on forbs and light on the grasses. The grasses will slowly spread, but for now the flowers rule. The patch of sweetgrass planted 2 years ago is doing well, and wild Canada rye, planted as a cover crop, is still hanging on by reseeding itself each year. June grass is doing well. 23 acres of the reserve are planted to agricultural crops. The diversity of the prairie is a stark contrast to the Monsanto monoculture of the crop fields. The Sunny Peace Prairie is a registered monarch way station with monarchwatch.org. So of course, you will find milkweed. Rest on one of the benches and admire the view. The Sunny Peace Prairie is open to the public during daylight hours. There is a large parking area, a pavilion with picnic tables, a vault-type toilet, and a kiosk with trail maps and information for using the property. Before we end this video, let me introduce you to Sunny, who had a kind, gentle nature and provided an appropriate namesake for the prairie.